Hey students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is pop culture. And here are your objectives. Please pause the video, look these questions over, and get ready to copy some vocab and take some notes. In the last video, you learned about local culture, also known as folk culture. And in today's video, we will look at pop culture. As you watch, take note of 3 ways in which pop culture is different from local culture. Here we go. The most important aspect of pop culture is that it is produced explicitly for sale. Pop culture is always made with the intent of being sold for money. Now, I don't mean to say that local cultural traits like a dashiki or a plate of mole never get sold. But those items weren't initially created with the purpose of being sold. Pop culture, on the other hand, is created in order to be sold for money. Pop culture is a fairly new phenomenon. It didn't exist before the Industrial Revolution. But the Industrial Revolution did 2 things that were important for pop culture. First, it created a cash economy where people got paid with wages and used those wages to buy things with cash. The Industrial Revolution also allowed for the mass production of goods, and together, those 2 changes allowed goods to be created in large numbers and then sold to people who had money to buy them. Sometimes items that are initially made for personal use become adapted so that they can be sold in large quantities. In other words, a trait that was once from local culture becomes pop culture. It turns into a pop culture trait. And this process of transforming a trait into something that can be sold is called commodification. So, to recap this first characteristic of pop culture, traits of pop culture are always created for sale, and sometimes traits from local culture get commodified, meaning they change into a pop culture trait that can be marketed for sale as well. Secondly, pop culture changes slowly over space. That means that as you travel around the world, you'll encounter the exact same pop cultural traits. In other words, pop culture is mostly the same everywhere. And this is the total opposite of local culture because local culture is local. Pop culture is not local, it's universal, it's everywhere. For example, you can hear the Beyoncé song If I Was a Boy on the radio in New York. And if you travel to Mexico, you could hear that song on the radio there too. And if you travel all the way to Japan, you could hear Beyoncé singing the song on the radio there as well. The tendency of pop culture to be the same everywhere leads to something called placelessness, which you'll learn more about in the next video. For now, know that placelessness is the opposite of a sense of place. Think about that, and I bet you can guess what placelessness means. Third, pop culture changes quickly over time. That means that pop culture is always new. It's like a fad. It's popular for a short time, but then it changes to adapt to people's constantly changing tastes. Here's a picture of the first Apple iPod, which was released in 2001. It was bought by millions of people around the world. The iPod was a major pop culture trait of the early 2000s. But now, just 20 years later, nobody really uses iPods. They've been replaced by iPhones and other devices. So in the early 2000s, the iPod revolutionized the way people listen to music, and then, just a few years later, it was gone. This is what I mean when I say that pop culture changes quickly over time. Next, pop culture tends to diffuse through expansion diffusion. especially contagious and hierarchical diffusion. Modern communications technologies like radio, television, and the internet are the main drivers of the contagious diffusion of pop culture. And celebrities and influencers promote pop culture hierarchically. Finally, pop culture usually has known origins. We know who invented the song About a Boy. It was Beyonce Knowles. And we know who invented the iPod. It was a group of engineers at Apple, including specific people like Steve Jobs. Pop culture is new and it develops quickly, so it's not hard to know who first created a specific pop cultural trait. Also, the hearths of pop culture are often specific identifiable places called nodes of innovation. These are places where certain industries are concentrated. For example, New York and Paris are two nodes of innovation for fashion. Los Angeles, California is the home of Hollywood, and it's a node of innovation for movies or cinema. And Silicon Valley, which is the area around San Francisco, California, is a node of innovation for internet technology. The internet, iPhones, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things were invented in Silicon Valley. Now it's time to review the objectives, and if you don't know the answer to any of them, rewind the video and look again. See you in class. Bye, students.